Welcome to Paint Ed. PCA provides painting contractors with connections they need to grow their business. To find out more and to become a member, visit pcapainted.org. Find more great content just like this on PCA Overdrive. A subscription to the platform is included with membership. For all you non-members out there, sign up for a free trial. PCA Overdrive is available on the App Store and Google Play. This episode is brought to you by Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Quick Hits from Rollout Marketing. I am pleased and honored to have Micah Stelter joining me today. Welcome, Micah.
Hey, good to be here, man.
Micah is the VP of Sales at Paris Painting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and also one of the partners in Olive Holdings and Olive Capitals and all of the Olives, right?
Yes.
Good for you. Proud of you, man. All right, so I brought you on because I would consider you an expert in the field of sales, particularly in the painting industry. So I want to talk about sales today, and let's start with your thesis. So if I say sales in the painting industry is, you would say what?
Sales in the painting industry is decent at closing referral and past clients, not good at closing bids through marketing, purchase through marketing. That's probably where I would land on my first draft of my thesis.
True. Good episode, everybody. All right.
We're done here.
Yeah. All right, let's before we actually get into the conversation around that, can you share a little bit about your experience? Why should people listen to what you have to say around sales?
I have done thousands of bids myself and had amazing success ratio as a salesperson, 59%. That's with marketing bids and referrals and repeat. So I have demonstrated actual skill in selling paint jobs. But probably more importantly, I've led and built an amazing team of sales humans over the last 7 years. We have a team of 10, and leading them to increase success ratio and close large revenue dollars has been a big focus of mine. So we just landed $12.7 million last year, which is $3 million in growth in what some would say a tougher market. So in terms of how to actually use the skill of selling, we've had to use that a lot in the last couple of years. So that's what I hope to bring today.
All right, impressive resume. We should probably start with the agreement that if you're closing at 59%, you're not charging enough. True or false? And why is it true?
I would say it's great to be right around 50%. If you're like 60, 65, you should definitely increase those prices.
Yeah. I tease. All right. So what are the biggest mistakes you see painters make when it comes to sales?
So when we want to define painters, I would say let's talk about the swath of the market of painting companies. It's an owner selling with maybe one person, but usually an owner selling, and they're doing most of that heavy lifting. I would say the biggest mistake I see is not giving people bids on the spot. So putting everything together and giving an actual estimate when they're with the customer, and not diving deep enough into like a needs analysis and an understanding of the homeowner they're in front of to really understand the risks to the sale. And I probably have a framework that is thinking about companies going from owner salesperson to sales team. So I'll preface it that way. That the biggest challenge that comes to my mind in that is you want to scale, you have to get outside yourself as the salesperson. You have to go to bids that are bought through marketing lead spend. And the biggest issue that we run into that is it takes some skill of really understanding the threats to the sale, the objections that might come up, how to wade through those and really understand people's core needs and what they're actually trying to accomplish with a budget they can actually afford. And I find that most painters do not do a good enough job skilled enough job at diving into that.
Can we even go a step further backwards? Is it a mistake that painters fancy themselves as salespeople rather than hiring salespeople?
Definitely not in the early days. It's like you know, as you get, most entrepreneurs need to drive the revenue. So that's not a mistake at all. Holding on to that, if you want to scale, I think can be pretty challenging. There's some really cool humans out there selling millions and millions of dollars of commercial work, and they maybe have some estimators on their team, and that can work for a while. But in terms of residential painters, let's say in that market, it's great if you like selling. Most of the owners I've met that are selling would like to get out of having to do that. They love the idea of doing it for fun, but not having to do it. Most owners are kind of stuck having to do the sales, and many of the other roles in the company. So I don't think it's a wrong thing at all. And I actually think it's one of the best environments for a homeowner to be talking to the actual owner when they're doing the bid. And you can create a lot of trust and drive a lot of revenue at a pretty decent cost point in the early days. And there's no reason you wouldn't have to leave that ever. It could be your world forever, and it's a great scenario. If you desire to have a team of salespeople and to scale the company and grow it, that's where things start to change a little bit, where it's probably not going to work long term just being yourself.
So a very common debate in the painting industry is whether we should be performing in-home presentations or simply site visit, kind of discovery visit, and then deliver the proposal via email maybe by the end of the day. So you guys do all in-home presentations?
I would say 95% of the time, yes.
Okay. Can a business be successful without doing in-home presentations?
Yeah, I think they can. I think I would say the trust of a referral and a past client, they don't need you to present that. You already have built some relationship. You can send them the price and they'll make a decision later, and it likely will be yes, right? It's maybe more weighted on that side. That again there's a theme probably to all the things I'm going to talk about. That becomes very challenging to sustain results and get the ROI of your marketing spend if you're not presenting with a homeowner at their home and you send a bid later when there's somebody that comes through the marketing collateral.
Yeah. So this is something that I don't argue with the other side because I don't argue against in-home presentations. Yeah, but at Ellison Painting, 1 or 2%, we actually deliver a proposal on site, and the other 99% are delivered via email and text later. We did over $5 million in sales in 2024. Closing rate was about 42% overall. Average job size, $6,500. And so it's been hard for me to justify a move to full in-home presentations when we've been able to, and that's all at a 6.1% marketing spend. So are we just like a unicorn in how we do that? Or, there's just different business models that could work, right?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the sales model, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you doing with the homeowner before they get the actual bid? If you can get them to a place where they're pretty clear on what this is going to look like, and it's not a surprise when they get the estimate, as long as you've done a pretty good needs validation and rapport build and made the right connections with the homeowner, I think that can increase the likelihood. My feeling is there's much that's missed when you walk through the actual scope, the actual price with someone at their home. Being able to see how they react, where they're at. You're talking reality now. They actually have the bid and they can actually make a decision. How many salespeople do you have, Brad?
So last year I was still doing estimates, plus Mark was doing sales, and then we had a summer intern and another guy that was with us for a couple months. So At one point we had 4, plus my partner Tim would do some when we needed. The goal for this year, 2025, is to have 3 full-time salespeople and me not doing residential estimates at all. Yep.
And I think depending on how much of that revenue source you brought in yourself, I think maybe is part of the number skew. I would say I see success ratio drop quite a bit when we lose the in-person presentation of a non-owner sales team. That is partly the process that we have. The sales model we built is to go all the way through and get the numbers and present right there on the spot. So the process that we've designed and use is already built to do that. So to not do that, it's like a half process, if that makes sense. If you have a process that's built to always send it later, we try to get all the admin, the estimating. There's no sitting at a desk later. You get everything done at the home, and you can move on to the next thing all in one big swoop.
So, but the process that we have certainly would allow, and it's built to create the proposal right there while we're still at the house.
Yep.
The issue that we've run into, and maybe you can help solve this problem for us, is we are so efficient on the front end scheduling the estimate, is that we're always the first company out there. And part of our value prop is that we're not going to do a big sales push.
Yep.
We will not try to talk anyone into saying yes. And almost all of our customers are getting additional estimates, and we're always the first ones there. And so I just kind of view it as like an integrity move to say, we're not going to expect that you're going to make a decision while we're here. What's your take on that, and how do we solve that?
I would say there's a spectrum. So the spectrum is one-call closers, discounters. There's those type of sales models, which are more on the aggressive side to get a sale, and it's more about the company getting that deal closed than it is the homeowner's timeline and desires, right? So there's a spectrum there. Then there's, hey, I'll send you a bid, and it's like they show up, take the measurements, they go, I'll send you a bid, and a couple weeks later the bid comes. Yep. If those are the two bar ends, I would say, we're probably talking between Ellison Painting and Paris Painting. We're probably like this. We are a little bit more assertive to actually give the proposal, make sure it's accurate, and just kind of say, do you understand this? And also, I want you to see a proposal that's really well done to compare to all the proposals that are not really well done later. But we aren't pushing for a mandatory sale either. We are just saying, hey, I met your needs. The budget is in the realm you wanted. You validated all of that. Doesn't it make sense to move forward and do this? And I'm saying that more directly even now than I am with a homeowner. Right? Yeah, sure. It's just set up that way. And then when people go, I have other bids I'm getting, we're like, hey, I get it. That makes a ton of sense. A lot of people do. What is it about those other bids that you're really wanting to understand that I haven't given you, just so I know? Because I want to make sure we're solving problems for you. Otherwise, what are we doing here? And those conversations usually bring a lot of clarity of, hey, first-time person, they've never done this before, so they have no idea if I'm lying to them or you know what. So it's like, okay, cool. So you just want to know what the market is. That makes sense. I'll share a little bit about where the market is and what they might see, and then I'll say, I'll call you next week, right? Or somebody says, I'm just worried about the fact that you didn't bid out carpentry, and I want to see if I can get an actual carpentry bid, right? I might do time and materials carpentry, and they don't like that. Yeah. So then I spend time on that for a while. Would it help if I get you a more definite number on that so you can actually plan? And then they would say, yes, that'd be great. Well, I may not get the decision from them right then, but I know that I can get further into helping them not be super concerned about where our carpentry might land versus somebody who might estimate it for them, or I might just estimate it, right? So it gets us further down the line of what objections might be there. Why would you need to go look somewhere else if your needs are met? The timeline works, you like the process, and the budget works. Yeah. Is there a reason why you have to keep shopping if we've met all of those? Well, when there is, you want to know what they are, right? And so that, I would say we're assertive in the way that we want to get to those conversations, but we're not aggressive in the way that we're going to push you to feel uncomfortable and make a decision, because a lot of people will make a decision because they just feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And that really, I am not a fan of that. It's hard hard to keep a sales culture like that.
So tough. Yeah. And that's the sales culture that I grew up in when selling life insurance. Yeah. If I got my knees under a table, I'm not leaving until they give me a definitive yes or no. And if it's a no, I'm not coming back. That's it. And I built the sales system at Ellison Painting to be the antithesis to that.
I understand that 100%.
But I think I overcorrected.
Yeah. I think that I think it's a good debate, because I think there is a lot of emotion in selling, and there's like a really skilled salesperson understands if you've got the job won or not, but most people aren't as skilled as that. They need to actually have a process they go through
Yeah.
to be able to understand what are the issues still, and be able to kind of see the whole picture with the homeowner. Otherwise, the homeowner can always push off and say, well, we'll just wait till we get your bid, right? When you have the whole thing presented now there's nothing left to decide. It's all clear. You can still figure out why they won't move forward and get on the calendar. And a lot of our clients do move forward and get on the calendar with us right then and there. So it saves a lot of administrative back and forth later too. But it for sure increases the success ratio because you get further down the line of what they're really basing their decision off of and what they're hiding and not telling you when you have the whole thing shown, right?
Yeah, I think you're right that Paris Painting and Ellison Painting are probably very, very close. The the strategy for 2025 is to actually move towards almost as often as possible an in-home presentation. And that's not necessarily with the goal of closing the job there on the spot, though that will naturally happen to some degree.
Yep.
But it is to present, identify any objections, questions, concerns, and I think that would include increase our closing rate, even if they don't say yes right then.
Yep.
Higher chance will say yes later in the week.
And I would say, like, for our company, close ratio landed around 48% this year. I think 40 to 43%, some skill in selling and quick turnaround on bids. I think you're going to do that. Yeah. I think the 48 and 50% realm as a company, we're starting to get into increased prices territory. But I think that really changes some of the game. And I think there is that reality of just less having to do follow up or any other, just wrap it all in a bow right then and there with the homeowner. I think there is a pickup there on time and energy in the year with how much volume is done.
So I know you pretty well. I think you know me pretty well. I think we would probably both agree that you and I have some sort of intrinsic ability to sell, whether that be, discernment, high emotional, high EQ, whatever. For me, I have training. I don't know if you have training. But ultimately, we have some sort of intrinsic ability. Is sales, is it an intrinsic ability, or can it be learned, and if so, how?
You do not have to have sales experience in the normal broad term that means, right? So you don't have to have this sales pedigree. In fact, I actually don't usually want that. What you do need to have is like 7 characteristics that I really like, but it's more about who that person is and how they're wired, the salesperson. If you, and I'll explain it this way, if you have zero process, zero marketing spend, and you just need a human to go find opportunity, now you got to go find somebody who's just a shark, who's never going to say no. They're going to be a maverick. They're going to be wild. They're going to do wild things, and they're going to find wild opportunities. We do not run a company like that. We need somebody to show up and execute really well and make really good connections with humans. So in that sense, can you clearly follow a process that works? Like, do you have that background? Can you connect well and have emotional intelligence with humans? Do you kind of understand what's going on in the room, or are you oblivious to that, right? And this could be somebody that was like a GM in restaurants, or they were like executive or account manager or something somewhere, or they worked in a nonprofit as an assistant director, right? Like, it could be all sorts of different roles, but do they exhibit those transferable skills of emotional intelligence? Do they have an achievement quadrant? Are they somebody who's like, I have to achieve? That doesn't have to look like selling units in their past, right? It just needs to look like somebody who has to always improve their scenario and get to the next level in some way, form, or fashion. So there's lots of different ways you can see that. If you have those, like I listed as customer service focused, high compliance ability to a proven method, natural desire to solve problems, high retention of information, emotional intelligence of themselves and others, active desire for personal growth, and the ability to sustain healthy habits and routines. If they have that, I can create a salesperson out of that.
What you just described are like intrinsic traits.
Yes, intrinsic. Yep.
Okay.
And I think as an owner or a recruiter, you need to be able to understand, does somebody have those in an interview and in that kind of world? But I really like first tier networks where you look at people that you admire and just have great qualities about them. You run into them all the time. Somebody that has those traits, you're like, God, that's a great person, right? And it could be somebody that served you at a restaurant. It could be somebody you ran into it's like they're in a cube somewhere, or it could be somebody at your church or your community groups, gym, whatever. If you see that and you have a professional process and a professionalized company that isn't going to be a gong show, I think you can bring those people in. They can earn a great wage and have much better culture. And those people, if they have that, can follow the processes we built and really execute at a pretty high level.
Sure. Before we wrap, I want to hit one other topic because it's personal to me. So I think I'm a really good salesperson. The numbers would show that. I'm just good at it. I discovered over the past year and a half that I am actually a quite terrible sales trainer and sales manager. So, fortunately, Mark, that's been working for me now for a year and a half, almost 2 years, he's great. And so thank God that Brad didn't ruin Mark's, opportunity here. So when a company is large enough then to bring on a salesperson that isn't the owner, you have a couple recommendations around that, things that we should be aware of.
Yep. So for sure, you need to have a model or a process in place of how do you, in your culture, with your processes, explain that to the market that you meet with. So there needs to be kind of a roadmap that somebody has to follow and learn. What does it sound like? What are the steps? It's so much better for somebody to come in and be able to understand kind of the playbook of how do you sell currently. And if you were to peel back every sales playbook across all industries, they're not, it's needs analysis, right? They're all, you can grab one on ChatGPT right now if you don't have one. Right. It is just have one and then inject it with your culture. What are the things you'd want to tell people about your company? Well, the people you bring on need to know how to step into that without any experience of your company, right? So they can work off of just rehearsed word tracks for a while in what you've taught them and told them. And then they eventually start to build their own ability because they have experience. But right off the bat, what we typically would do is bring people through 1 or 2 weeks of pretty much onboarding and training on models. So here's the model. Here's how you say it. Here's how you bid a house using our tools, right? So you teach that. And then they watch a lot of estimates happen with experienced humans that are selling. Then the next week, they try it a little bit and can continue to research and practice the model and how to estimate a home. And the sales model and estimating are the two biggest things to learn in the first week or two. Can you bid it appropriately, and can you walk a homeowner through each step to feel confident in the company? And so those would be the things to hit first. Then there's kicking them out of the nest and having them try it on their own and see where their gaps are. And support them with coaching. So an experienced salesperson, whether that's the owner or an experienced salesperson on the team, comes out and they watch and let them lead it, but they watch and observe and give some objective feedback on areas they can improve. That's hopefully written and also spoken, so it's retained better for different learning types. That's like the first 4 weeks of somebody's world is a lot of that. Then when you get into week 5, 6, 7, 8, you're basically on your own and asking questions as you go of the team to continue to build your competency. I think that there's a huge benefit to training. Here's how we actually produce a job, get them on a job site to see the issues that happen. What does prep really look like? What does application really look like? If they don't have experience in the industry, they got to understand like what is happening out here, right? Common concerns, so that your production manager being able to meet with them to say, here's the things that are big issues. So don't, like, if you see this kind of house, be really wary of what you do with it. Delamination, really like a lot of peeling paint, there's different things that you might see inside and outside. That's something that's important to incorporate as well. In terms of products, they have to know the core products you use for outside and inside, right? So you have a list of here's what we use, why we like it, and here's the main bullet points. But Sherwin and Benjamin Moore and these reps are really good at being at your beck and call by a text message if you have any questions deeper than that. That's like the basics to get them going. Then you move into kind of the sales 201 course, right? Which is now you have to understand deeper objection handling. How do you understand where somebody's at and how to move them emotionally to a new place, right? That's when you might get into. I've got a really good book actually that. Here it is. You probably won't. I don't know if it's in reverse, but it's You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. It's a Sandler method, David Sandler book. This has got some really good sales principles in it. I like this one. The Sandler group in general has great resources on sales. I don't think they're jerks at all in the way they present what sales is. It's about helping people solve problems for a budget they can afford, right? And it's how do you help people best understand them better than get the skills to have better understanding, right? And that's a good one. So I would recommend that. There's also role playing, more field coaching. We do a lot of field coaching, just getting out in the world where the experienced person comes up with a new person and they just do things together, and I would say there's learning in both directions in that sometimes too. But that helps somebody really grow in their knowledge set and become successful.
Nice. Information that would have been useful to me 2 years ago. Thank you.
Straight delegation is the biggest issue, right? So go out there and sell. That will not work. It won't even work if somebody has experience in the industry. It's just you got to be out there and know what's really going on.
All right, so let's wrap it up. So I like to end each episode with actual action items. So 1 or 2 things that a listener can do today to impact their sales process in 30 seconds or less. What is it?
Okay. The first thing I want you to do is right off the bat, I want you to set an agenda. I want you to say, "Hi, Mrs. Smith. My name is, and I'm here to give you a painting bid. Thank you so much for having me out. Is it okay if I give you permission? Is it okay if I give you a high level of what we're going to do today?" And then give a high level of your whole plan. So you set the homeowner in a place where they're ready to listen and go through your process. So that's key. Right after you do that agenda, start asking some questions. Are you for sure going to paint this year? And that the answers of that are going to bring you different places. Is there anything you plan to do yourself, or are you planning to hire everything out? And then what is important to you when working with contractors outside of price and quality, right? So try to understand the experiential element of what they really care about: communication, timeliness, all those type of things. So you ask those questions right after the agenda, get some early information on how they're thinking, probe a little deeper on what they say so you understand it. Then after you go through and do all the walk around, look at all the scope in the house or outside, wrap around and do a needs validation. So, hey, I heard you said these 3 things are really important. Do you feel like I can meet those needs? That should be yes or no. And then you always ask, is there anything else, right? Most people are going to say, no, this is great. And then you ask if there's anything else to make sure you're fully getting everything answered for the homeowner. Then you say, is there any concerns with the way we're going to paint or any part of our process? Nope. Great. And then you say, if this all comes back within the budget range we discussed, right? Is this something you guys are thinking you'd want to move forward with to get on the calendar? And that creates a point where there's a decision that has to be made. It's not just fun times. There's a real line in the sand where you understand, is somebody ready or not ready to move forward? And you're not pressuring them in this. You're just asking based on meeting all their needs and they're feeling good. And that's where you're going to get the objection, and you want the objection. And that's called a trial close. And that's where you're going to get, I have a significant other, I can't because of whatever reasons. And now you can work to kind of go deeper into each of those to understand and align on a decision timeline that's going to work for them and you, which is really, really important. Everything after that is just estimating, presenting the final proposal, that's fine. But those key steps, if you do those, you'll have a much higher success ratio on bids bought through marketing or referrals and past clients.
All right, you heard it here. Set an agenda when you knock on the door. Ask questions. Go through some needs validation after the walk around, and then simply talk about expectations, whether they're ready to move forward, and then identify objections.
Yep.
Got it?
That's it.
All right. If you all implement those pieces into your sales process, if you even have a sales process, you'll see some changes. So, Micah, appreciate your expertise. Appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Love you, Brad. Great to see you.
Love you too, man. Bye.
Paint Ed podcasts are produced by the Painting Contractors Association and are made possible by members and industry partners. To find out more about the upcoming educational opportunities or for more information about joining the PCA, visit pcapainted.org.